Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
Oh, yeah. What's going on?
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. Going well. What about you?
Good.
That's good, man.
So, this is Let's All Go to the Lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby.
I'm T-Kettle.
I'm Nico. And you want to see something cool?
Yeah, let's see something cool.
I'm finally in the 21st century now.
Ooh.
Yeah, new phone.
New phone. Slick, man.
New phone, who dis?
New phone, who dis? Yeah, send them digits.
Send them digits, baby. iPhone XR. Pretty sick, my old phone, and you've seen it, was like... Hold on, let me...
Oh, the one that was all beat up?
Yeah, it was so bad. Like, dude, I can't even describe... Like, obviously it was cracked. The phone was broke.
Like a car ran over it.
Almost, pretty much. Like, it was cracked. The camera lens was broken, so the images were all blurry. The GPS didn't work, and then it started, like, turning off on its own. It would die in, like it would be 100, and it would be down to, like, 10% in 15 minutes.
Okay.
And it wouldn't charge. The headphone jack didn't work. Every time I plugged it into the charger, I'd have to, like, finick with it and, like, put it down carefully once it got the charge and just hope, like, don't touch it sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I'm just like...
Fuck that.
I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I've been there too, man.
So I went up to my mom and I'm like, yo, we got to do something. So me and my mom both got new iPhone XRs.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty
I think I
sick.
finally got a smartphone like 5 years ago.
Dude,
I had a flip phone like my entire life.
Yeah, I've always been behind, dude. I had a Razr well into... Not a Razr, but like a flip phone, basically. Yeah. Like, well into the smartphone craze.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And the first smartphone I ever got was an iPhone 5. And then I had that until 3 years ago when the iPhone 8 came out. And then I replaced it with a used iPhone 6S that my friend had.
Uh-huh.
And then that one was already beat up. And then I finally, like...
I think I got my first phone when I was in 11th grade, dude.
Dang,
11th grade.
Dang.
I kind of miss those days. I kind of hate relying on my phone, but
yeah, me too, dude. Like
I love it so much. I couldn't go without it.
Right. It's crazy how much in such a short amount of time, quote unquote short. I guess it's been like 10 years, but like that these have become a necessity now.
Yeah, it feels like a part of you is missing when they're gone.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Wow, the world cannot adjust. Back to the old days.
No way.
Can't have those brick phones.
So
we got three
big
topics today. You want to just dive in?
Let's do it.
So it looks like we're replicating something that happened last year. It looks like we got another Star is Born in our hands, fellas.
Oh, okay. So we're starting here. Okay.
I mean, unless you wanted to.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, we got another Star is Born.
That's fine.
And
no, it's actually not really. I mean, it started off that way, but now it's pretty polarizing. It's like a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, it's not a 98%.
I think it's 50. I think we're talking about Joker first of all. For those of you who don't know,
yeah, we're way behind on this.
I think some of the criticisms are unwarranted, though. I even tweeted about it.
I mean, yeah, naturally, like when you think something.
No, but even like because we're going way back here. For those of you who don't know, T-Kettle was not a fan of the Joker. I think it's a full blown masterpiece. Like I loved it. It's my number 2 of the year. Okay. It's so good. I think if you remember, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this film and a lot of fear-mongering from the media and people and news outlets saying that this film was dangerous and it sympathized mass shooters and incels and all this bullshit. And that's why people are giving it bad reviews. I've looked at these reviews and they've said that shit.
I kind of agree with it.
You agree with it?
I agree with it.
How?
Because, now I think it's fair to say that we can do spoilers on this, right? I mean, how can we not talk about it?
It's been out forever, dude. If you guys haven't seen it by now, come on.
Yeah. So for me, I agree with it because like it's a film that it's really hard to just jump into like the biggest point of the film like without any like context. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start like with this.
Okay.
Let's start with what I do like about the film.
Okay.
Like the film starts. It has a strong infrastructure. Like, all the commentary that it has about mental illness and society and stuff like that, I feel it's good. It's a bit obvious, but it's good. I feel like the technical aspects are pretty good, but really that doesn't matter as much in the grand scheme of things.
The technical aspects are great.
And Joaquin Phoenix is great.
Yeah, I love the cinematography, and the score I think is the best of the year. I think the score is absolutely amazing.
Okay.
By Hagar. I think I can't remember. It's some weird name.
Okay. All great. All great. And yeah, for me, that was basically like what I like about it.
Okay.
I enjoyed the ride at first, but it has. I saw it again, and it has not remained very strong on the second viewing. I kind of felt it to be a little boring. It takes about 30 minutes for anything to really happen, and all the stuff that was happening just felt way too familiar. As we brought up even before the film released, it's going to have like Scorsese vibes to it.
Yes.
And just all this felt so familiar. There was Taxi Driver moments. There was King of Comedy moments. And yeah, I mean, it really didn't do anything for like 30 minutes. And then when you got the wheels turning, I just felt like it made a lot of mistakes.
Okay.
I felt like it made a lot of mistakes in its narrative.
And what were some mistakes?
Just like the theme of the film is just like it can't really choose. I just don't feel like it's disciplined. You disagree with me. I feel like it doesn't make a decision, and that's why it becomes dangerous, because it doesn't make a decision about public shootings. Here's
the thing, though. So, okay, you say it doesn't. I think you're kind of on the idea that this film doesn't really know what it wants to be. I think this film knows exactly what it's trying to say and what it wants to be. Touching on the Scorsese stuff, yes, this movie has a heavy Taxi Driver influence and a heavy King of Comedy influence and stuff like that. Mean Streets and all that stuff, you know. That doesn't really bother me at all, because a lot of movies take influences from other films and all that. So that doesn't really bother me. A lot of people say it looks familiar and it feels familiar, and I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it works though. You know, a lot of stuff feels familiar and it works out. I think this is paying homage in a very like good way. Like I think it doesn't over rely on its homages, but if that's a word, homages. Sure. But and it does its own thing enough for me to not really view it as just a Scorsese copycat movie. As far as like sympathizing with mass shooters and sympathizing with this character and all that, it's like going back to the Scorsese thing. It's like if we plucked this movie out of the time we're in now, there's really no difference between this movie and something like Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver did the same thing and was asking these same questions back in the 70s, you know? So it kind of feels like that, you know, we as a society haven't like moved beyond this conversation. So I don't think it should be taken out on the movie necessarily, you know, because this movie is very similar to Taxi Driver, and it's very similar to the themes of Taxi Driver. So I don't understand why people can look at Joker and be like, I don't like this because it sympathizes mass shootings. But Taxi Driver, which is a praised movie, I think is even crazier. Like, Travis Bickle, spoiler alert for that movie, but it's been out for like ever, kills a whole like ton of people, probably more than the Joker does in this movie.
He kills people. He kills pimps.
Yeah,
that he does.
Yeah, and the Joker kills a lot of people who he thinks wronged him. The difference is like when the movie's over, Taxi Driver's over, people view him as a hero, and you who saw the events unfold, you're like, is he really a hero though? And the movie makes you ask that question. Yeah, I feel like that's what this movie's kind of trying to do. It's kind of making you ask that question as well. Not so much, is this guy a hero? But, like, is he worth sympathizing with? Is he worth, like, does he have a point?
That's the difference, though. It's asking you to sympathize with somebody who kills people.
Here's the crazy thing, though. A ton of movies do that.
Yeah.
This is a comic book character, and I know that's taken a lot more seriously than a lot of comic book movies, but you got to remember that this has taken inspiration. I mean, the Joker in the comic books literally cut off his own face and stapled it back onto himself. Like, he's skinned people alive in the comic books. He's a fucked up guy, the Joker from the comic books. So, as a comic book fan, I'm just seeing a faithful portrayal of a character that I know from the comic books, just done in a very more realistic and less comic booky way.
And see, this is where it gets a little different for me, is I'm comparing this character to what I know about the Joker, which isn't a ton,
Mm-hmm.
and this character just doesn't feel like the Joker at all. I feel like they could have done anything with this.
Really,
character.
I disagree with that.
If you would have took the name Joker out and like Gotham, Thomas Wayne, I would have thought it was just a commentary on society.
Yeah, that's what it is. But at the same time, it is still a comic book movie that derives from the DC comic books. I mean, one thing that I really love about this movie, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, is like the Joker from the comic books is always an unreliable narrator. You never know when he's telling the truth or not. Mm-hmm. There's been multiple origins of the Joker, and you never know which one is true. Like the Killing Joke, which is a lot of people consider the definitive origin of the Joker. You don't know, like when that origin segment happens, even Batman is like, "Is that true?" And he's like, "I don't know." He's like, he's like, "I prefer my past to be multiple choice," is what he says. And I like the whole unreliable narrator shtick that goes on in the movie, because that's just such a Joker thing. You don't know, and this blew my mind because when I first saw the movie, I didn't even think about that. I just took it very linearly. Is that a word? Yes.
It is now.
Yes, linear. I took it as a very linear narrative. And then someone brought it up. It's like, do you remember in the beginning, like the first 10 minutes when it flashes for a second and it's the hospital room when he's in the end? And he's like, "Arthur, do you know why you're here?" And it flashes him banging his head against the wall. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what if that entire story was just fake? And like he just made it up. And that's just one of the Joker's origin stories. And I'm like, holy fuck, like what? Like that blew my mind because that's such a Joker thing. And I'm just like, and then I started dissecting the film even more. And I'm like, what is real? Like, because like, was Thomas Wayne really his dad or was he not? Because he says he was adopted, but Thomas Wayne could have easily, because he's a billionaire, faked that paperwork. And it's like his mom also seems to have a mental illness, so him being adopted and also having the same mental illness as his mom, that's like sketchy. That can't be. But the movie doesn't definitively answer it. And to me, it's not like the movie doesn't know the answer. I think it does know the answer, because Todd Phillips actually came out and did answer something, which I wished he didn't do, but he did. But then, like, you see a note from Thomas Wayne to his mom. It says, "Love TF," or TW. You know, it's like, you don't know what's real. Did he kill his mom for literally no reason, just because she was telling the truth? Or was she really delusional? Was Thomas Wayne lying? It's like, you don't know. But I view that ambiguity as a good thing in this movie.
I don't. For me, I
really?
mean, usually I do. That's the thing. It's just for this specific.
That's why I'm surprised.
This specific film, it just doesn't work, because for me, no one's gonna fucking know that. Like, no one's gonna think, oh well, it's morally ambiguous. Ambiguous.
Yes.
No one's gonna think that. I don't feel like.
I viewed it like that. I thought the movie never took a side. I think the movie was just showing you the actions of this guy and was never telling you if it was right or wrong. And it made you come up with your own conclusions, which I thought was very effective. Like, I think the movie relishes in its moral ambiguity. Like, I think the movie just wants to put, as cliche as this sounds, it wants to put a mirror up to us and ask us, what does this say about us as a people? Because when he killed those people on the subway, it's like, there's a part of you, I mean, at least for most people, I heard this from Jeremy Johns' review. Mm-hmm. He's like, you liked when he did that. Like, there was a little part of you that was like, yeah, like, fuck those guys. Like, they were about to straight up assault this woman.
Yes.
And it's like, and there's a part of you that liked it. And the movie's asking, like, what does that say about you?
Okay, so I get that. I'm gonna try to zone in here because I feel like I'm not in it right now.
I'm really not. It's been a while.
No,
so.
Yeah, I'm like, I just got off of work. Mm-hmm. So for that thing, for that moment, I feel like to a degree he is in the right. It's self-defense. Like, he killed somebody, but to a degree he also
he goes one step beyond.
He stepped beyond,
and I love that.
And I feel like there's a lot of satisfaction there. Like, he feels, especially after that scene, he kind of becomes like,
he unlocks the Joker.
Yes,
for the first time,
and he like starts to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's scenes where it's like he could have done that same thing in the scene where he kills that guy in his apartment. And he could have just killed that other guy. But he's so, like, conscious about what he does. He's aware. And so, like, if he really did like that and he felt like on top of the world after that first kill, he would have just killed this other guy. But he's clear, like, he's insane, but he's really not.
He's calculated.
He's calculated.
Just like the Joker.
But, like, I just don't feel like I can't make the transition for this character that we're seeing here to be like the genius that he is outside of this. I can't really see him like hijacking a nuke and nuking a city. I can't see that.
Yeah.
This is a different take, and I want to say this too. It's not just that like him as the Joker that doesn't feel like the Joker to me, but it's also Gotham City, and that's a more pivotal character than anybody in the movie.
Yeah.
Gotham City is just 1970s New York.
Yeah, but that's great though, because this movie again takes influence from Taxi Driver, and I think the production design on the city is amazing. The way they light it, it looks grimy. There's garbage everywhere, like piled up. I think it does a good job of. I think it takes place in the 80s actually, but it's basically 1970s. I think it does a good job of portraying Gotham as a character. I think they just called it Gotham because it ties back into the comics. Yeah, out of necessity. They probably would have wanted to call it New York, but then they're like, you know what, this is the Joker. We got to call it Gotham, you know. And one thing I really like is the film, like how I said, it never takes sides. I love how the movie can be viewed as an allegory literally on both sides of the spectrum politically. Like it can be viewed as a commentary on the 1%, and it can be viewed as a commentary on left-wing and right-wing violence. I've seen people on the left side of the aisle and right side of the aisle say, you see, this movie proves blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but you guys are both completely on the different side of the aisle. But I love the fact that it does that.
I don't really see how it can be anything other than like supporting the left wing.
Really?
I really don't see it.
You don't think that
because even if you say, well, this is disturbing, like, can't you see like what he's become? But like, it's kind of like they let this happen. You let this happen, so it would be like against the Republicans because the Republicans don't allow like Medicaid and stuff like that.
The Jokers, the Joker army that is amassed, all the rioters, is clearly, in my opinion, a metaphor for Antifa. And it's never because they're going up against the Republicans, they're going up against the 1%, and they do heinous things. One of them kills Bruce Wayne's parents in cold blood, and that's why people are viewing it as against. That's how I view it. I view it that this is basically saying this is against left-wing violence because the Jokers are clearly Antifa. Like, clearly, in my opinion. Like, that's how I view it. And the director, Todd Phillips, he's never come out and fully said it, but in some of the interviews that I've read with him, he always talks about how he doesn't want to make a comedy because people are too politically correct. We lived, and this is in his words, he's like, our society is too woke for another Hangover movie and all that. He's clearly, I think, more right-sided. So I definitely think that the Jokers are 100% an allegory for Antifa and the Joker, and that's why I like its moral ambiguity, because you can either side with them or against them. It's like, are their actions right or wrong? They feel oppressed, which touches on classism and the 1% and Republicans. Do you feel sympathy for them or not? Because even if they're in this situation, that doesn't justify their actions. You know,
I can't get behind it because it's wrong. Like it's like that is
what they do is wrong, right?
It is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, so here's something else. Mm-hmm. So you said that the film or him as character, he wants attention. He clearly wants attention from the ending, right? That's what he cared about.
And you wouldn't accepted. He wanted to be more accepted. I don't know if he wanted attention, but like, yeah.
But you wouldn't say that he's politically charged, though, right?
Like, he doesn't have a political motivation.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. No, he doesn't have a political motivation. No.
So okay, so he says that in an interview with Murray. Mm-hmm. In that same interview, he says the complete opposite thing. He asks him, do you have a problem with Thomas Wayne, who is a political figure? And he's like, yes, I have a problem with Thomas Wayne. And he goes on to tell him about how he treats people like him like trash. So they're not misconstruing what his motive is. Like, that's what I thought was kind of brilliant.
But he doesn't hate Thomas Wayne because of political reasons, though.
But it's seen like that, though.
No, he hates him because of the whole father
he
thing.
Didn't, okay, so he didn't, I guess what the point I'm trying to make is he doesn't correct that he doesn't go out and explain that entire thing. So for face value, people can see it as him doing it for a political reason. And so they're really not misconstruing his whole thing.
Even in that interview, though, he's like, "You're not trying to make a political statement with this get-up," and he's like, "No."
Yeah.
You know, he's like, "I'm not."
That's what I mean, but I feel like it's still contradicting itself in a way.
I don't know, because I think his grudge against Thomas Wayne, because he had no problems with Thomas Wayne until he went through this whole thing of like.
I mean, it's true that he did treat him like trash, personally.
Yeah.
Like on a personal level, but he makes it sound like he treats all people like him like trash.
Well, yeah, because I mean, why not? Because I mean, once you meet someone, you come up with an impression. He's obviously insane. He doesn't view what he's doing as anything that's crossing the line. So if he wants to go up to him and he's like, "Accept me, Dad," and then he gets punched in the face for it, I think his impression is going to be, yeah, he treats everyone like this. Like he treats people like crash. Like this to me sounds more of like a nitpicky type thing. Like personally,
well, it's a big deal because I feel like that's part of the theme is like misconstruing, because he never said anything, and they really don't know what his cause was before he even did anything. Before he did this interview, he shot those kids, and they took it as "fuck the 1%." Like it even said in the newspaper, "Kill the 1% movement."
That's how they took it.
They took it, and it's definitely misconstrued. And they don't know what was going on with that whole situation. Yeah. But then they see him, and they get his side of the story, and his side of the story looks like he did it for a political motive.
See, I disagree. I don't think that. Like, so I agree with some of that. I agree with the public took it as a political statement. That's why they used his image, and they used his likeness as like a front man for this movement. They used like his image as like as the image of this movement sort of thing. Like he's the inspiration. I don't think he necessarily cares about the political.
No, yeah.
I think
I don't think he does either.
Yeah, he's just likes the being accepted by all these people, because he even says he's like, people are starting to notice him now, and it's like it's a new feeling, and he likes it, And I just fucking love this movie, dude. It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good.
So what I'm trying to say is that if you look at it from the outside or whatever, like imagine that the same scenario or whatever, and you saw like this thing or whatever, like let's say the Joker, and you saw this film, and you're like, okay, he does have a political motive. What if you thought that way because you didn't see it like we're seeing it, it could be, destructive. Like it could get into people's heads. Look, I'm not saying
I don't think so.
I'm not saying that this film is like toxic or like that's the point of the film is to be toxic, but I feel like it can be perceived that way, and that's what I don't like about it.
Well, it's interesting because remember that movie The Hunt? They canceled it because it was about a bunch of liberal millionaires hunting down conservatives and killing them.
Yeah.
Like, that movie was banned. Or not banned, but they just didn't show it. And now it's fucking gone. Like, what I like, that has a very cut and dry political motivation with that film. Which is very strange because you're viewing the liberals as like bad guys because they're... See, now that's a movie where I think that's confused, because the liberals are bad guys because they're killing all these people, but it's also an anti-conservative satire because, like, this is how conservatives view liberals today.
That's like a double negative.
It's like a double negative, and it's weird. But it's like, if that movie was released, would you also say, like, that the message is dangerous to that, too, and that it's also kind of promoting... like a political agenda that
I mean, kind of. I really don't know. I'd have to see the details of it.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not saying that the film is. It just rubs me the wrong way because I feel like it could be perceived that way. And now I'm not saying that this film's going to spark like any sort of violence or anything
Which it
like
didn't.
that. Which it didn't. But it also took the guy who did the Batman shooting a year to prep for it, so we don't really know right now. It's just too. I feel like it's still early too early.
I just want to point out though that shooter didn't. He just chose a random theater. That whole thing where he called himself the Joker is a myth. He never said that. He just chose a random theater, and he wasn't inspired by the Joker to do that. That's a myth.
I mean, it is early. I just feel like it's early to say something. I
think it's also stupid how, and Brendan actually said this. Brendan brought this up. He's like, the media was pushing such fear-mongering because of this film that the media wanted something to happen, first of all. And that's scary.
That's a kind of a positive to the film, actually. Because they do kind of bring that up right after the public shooting when they show all the televisions. Yeah. And they didn't even bring, like, real big attention to it. They just... It's kind of interesting because... that's one big thing that happens with shooters. They kind of idolize them. They get that that 15 minutes of fame.
That's right.
And it inspires people to do that kind of thing.
And that's what the media was... They were trying to create a mass shooter. And that's, like, insane to me. That's why... And people, like, wonder why people don't trust the media nowadays. And it's fucking crazy. Shit, I had, like, a whole...
But, like, that also kind of, like, elevates... Because you're seeing it from, like... through the Joker's eyes. Yeah. If somebody was to do this also looks way more appetizing to do it now that this film shows it.
See, no, I disagree. I think if any violence occurred because of this film, it's not because of the film itself. It's because of the media circus that surrounds it, where someone who's already on the edge for a different reason would see the media circus surrounding this film and be like, oh, there's my chance now. Here's my opportunity.
But, okay, and I get that. But this film totally could have predicted that. Totally
predicted what?
That this would happen.
Oh yeah, I think it kind of did. That's why that one shot where it pans back and it shows all the TV.
And it's like if it would have.
I think it predicted the media circus. I don't think it predicted like a shooter.
That the media circus would spark.
They didn't. Well, that's the thing.
It's like a domino effect.
Well, that's the thing. This fucking conversation. By the way, during Halloween, I watched all the Scream movies.
Yeah.
This fucking conversation's been happening for fucking 30 years, like Scream 2. The whole theme of Scream 2 is that.
Yeah.
Is real world violence inspired by movies?
Yes.
Like, that's literally the entire theme. And that movie came out fucking 20 years ago.
It is. But...
So we've been having this conversation. Quentin Tarantino has been asked this question for the last 20 years. It's like... I think it's so stupid, and I think it's a very unoriginal and like safe argument to have surrounding this movie. I think this movie asks questions about mental health, cutting the funding for mental health. It asks all these really interesting social questions that no one is interested in asking or having a discussion about because everyone is just like interested in this stupid fucking question that's been going on for 20 years. Is real violence inspired by movie violence? It's like, why don't you take that out of the equation for one fucking second and actually like look at what the movie is trying to say and have a discussion about that? But people just don't want to do that, and it's kind of annoying, you know.
That's fine. I can take it. But for me, this film starts off with a line that's like, is it just me or is it getting crazier out there? And that already established that this film just hits really close to home. And then with all the times have changed since then in Scream 2. Like right now there's so many fucking public shootings, and the fact that this comes out right now during this time, I don't know, it was a little tasteless for me.
See, I don't think so, because he doesn't go into the Murray audience and literally shoot everyone in the audience and kill like a whole bunch of people. He kills one guy who personally insulted him. It was a revenge tale between him getting to this to everyone who wronged him. He was getting revenge against.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm just going to go into a random supermarket or a random television studio and kill everyone there. He didn't hurt the audience. He had a grudge against this guy who he idolized as almost like a father figure.
Yeah.
And once that mirage got shattered, he wanted revenge against Murray, like personally. I think it's a very personal goal. I don't think it's like,
oh no, I totally get
it. If he went in there and took a fucking machine gun and shot the entire audience, I would be right there with you. I'd be like, that's too much, and they shouldn't have done that. But he didn't do that, you know, which is weird because in the comic he actually does do that in The Killing Joke. Or not, I'm sorry, in The Dark Knight Returns, he actually murders the entire audience.
Yeah.
So they knowingly didn't do that in the comic books, because the whole talk show thing, I don't know if you know this, that is from the comic books, when he goes on a talk show. And it's from The Dark Knight Returns. The Joker goes on a talk show and kills everyone in the audience and the host.
Which is fucked up.
It is. So
obviously they
so they saw
were a little bit more composed with it.
They were a little more composed, and I also thought that was a really good moment because I wanted to get into this. I don't know if you still think this way. Mm-hmm. You said he should have killed himself at the end.
Just to clarify,
yeah,
because I think it goes back to why I just felt like they didn't know what they were doing with him because they played the sympathy card so much, and then like he was so conscious about his actions and stuff like that, and like why I thought that they should do that is because like. I don't think that he felt like the Joker, so they could have really done whatever they wanted with it, I felt like, but you clearly don't. You feel like it's pretty true to the Joker.
I think it's true to the Joker to not kill himself. Well, because, like, I do think, I mean, obviously from the comics, the Joker is very unpredictable and you never know what he's going to do. But I personally, and this is my interpretation, I think he was going to kill himself. But there's a shot when he's full Joker makeup, when he's backstage, when he is waiting to go out on stage, and you hear Murray he keeps making fun of him. Yeah. And then it like the camera like slowly zooms in on his face, and I think that at that point he made the decision to switch it up. And and I love that scene because that was the moment where it's like the last tiny piece of Arthur Fleck was like, nah, like that was it. Like he killed the man who he viewed as a father figure, and it's like I thought that was very and that was a shocking moment, and I felt gross when that moment happened. I was like, ugh.
I did too.
I felt really I was like, oh man, because that kill, that was not like a movie kill. That was like fucking, that was real world right there.
That was.
And I was like, oh man. But I viewed it very powerful. It was a very powerful moment, and I was like, fuck, dude, holy crap.
It was a disturbing moment.
It was extremely disturbing.
I had no fucking clue what was going to happen during that scene.
I was on the edge on my seat. I was like, what the fuck? And I remember I was sitting next to Mitch.
Especially when he was like, I'm the one who killed the three dudes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
And then I remember when that shot went off, I was sitting next to Mitch, and he went, like he freaked out. And I was like, holy crap. Because we were all like, I felt the tension in the theater. Everyone was like, oh shit. Like, what is he going to do? I think this movie is a masterpiece, dude. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Even from a technical standpoint, I think it's one of the best of the year. The score, so good.
I have never put any thought into, like, what's the best score of the year, so I can't tell you at all.
Yeah. I have
No, it's got to be Last Man from San Francisco. That's so fucking good score, dude.
I've missed so many. I can't fucking keep up, dude. I got Parasite, Jojo Rabbit, Ford vs. Ferrari, Knives Out, freaking Star Wars is coming up. I can't keep up. Yeah. I can't see them all.
No, we can't. That's why we gotta wait till 2 months into that. We have 2 months additional.
Yeah.
After the year where nothing good comes out, so they just keep the same movies. And
there we go. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah.
Well, hold up. Bad Boys for Life. You're saying that's not gonna be?
I don't think it'll be in there for a week.
No,
2 days maybe.
Looks so bad. But yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I don't know.
This is a movie that stuck with me for days afterwards.
So that's why. That's something that I can't really perceive it as a positive, but it did stick with me too because I was wrestling with myself. I'm like, why don't I like this? Like, I'm trying to figure it out, and I still can't really feel like. I still just don't feel like it knows what it wants to be.
See,
I can't make the decision.
I so disagree. I think it knows exactly what it wants to be. I think your argument kind of reminds me of Mitch's argument. Mitch and I were talking about the ending to Inception. He's like, I hated that. Yeah. And I'm like, why? And he's like, because I think it was a cop-out. And I'm like, the ending to Inception was absolutely not a cop-out. He's like, I feel like they didn't know what they wanted to do. And they just didn't. And I'm like, no, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. Because if you ask Chris Nolan, what is he dreaming or not at the end, I guarantee you Chris Nolan knows the answer 100%. But he just doesn't want to give it to the audience fully. That's why he puts little Easter eggs in there, like every time he's in the real world he's wearing his wedding ring, and every time he's in the dream world he's not, and at the end he's wearing his wedding ring.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I feel like the answer's pretty clear.
I mean, I don't think it's clear. I mean, to the average person watching it, I don't think it would be clear. He's like, yeah, I hated that, and I'm like, I love that.
See,
because it knows what it wants to be.
I don't mean to like drift off entirely, but like. Yeah. That's the whole point of like dreaming or whatever, that details aren't clear, and that's why they don't never show their faces, but when they turn around, like, that makes it pretty clear. It's like,
oh yeah
it's lucid.
Well, that's another very subtle thing though, like, because the ending is meant to be ambiguous, but you can put enough clues together to know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't spoon feed you the answer. And that's what I love about the Joker. It doesn't spoon feed anything to you. I think in your review you said you didn't like how it never put a line in the sand and told you to pick a side. I think this movie, if the movie took a side, I think it would have derailed the whole thing. I think it relishes in its moral ambiguity.
I think
its ambiguity in general about what's real and what's fake. And I love that.
And I feel like if it didn't pick a side, the film could be perceived as dangerous. Let's talk one more thing about the film.
Yeah.
About the ending. And I know you say that it's never clear or whatever, that it's like because it kind of takes place in his mind or a lot of scenes.
I'm not saying that exactly. I said it could be that.
It could be that, but so I guess that's what you chalk it up to when he kills the woman at the end of the movie. The only time that he kills somebody that didn't really deserve it, technically nobody really deserved it except for maybe the kids, because he's being bullied. He's just killing people that bully him.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I will admit it's been a while since I've seen it, and I've only seen it once. Is the therapist at the end a different therapist than
It's a different therapist.
It's a different therapist? Okay. Well, my answer, I guess, is a couple things. One, I could just say, well, he's crazy and unpredictable. Whatever. But another thing, too, is even though it might be a little bit implied, because I can't exactly remember how it goes, what makes you necessarily think that...
The bloody footsteps.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying what makes you think that's her blood, though? It could be, that could be anybody's. It could be another guard that was trying to subdue him. It could be,
I don't know.
I think that was... I honestly feel like that was just kind of just a choice that happened at, the tail end of it. And
it's an eyebrow
I really love that. I really love
moment.
that scene though, because he runs around the room and he keeps running back and forth, running in circles.
See, this is the thing. I like what it does, stylistically and influentially in a lot of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like the theme of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that scene is kind of funny because it goes back to when he was seeing he was in the theater with Charles Chaplin playing.
Yeah,
and it's clearly a Charlie Chaplin scene.
It's great.
It's like a slapstick.
With the bloody footprints, it's there's nothing showing. Again, it's
just an implication.
It's just an implication. So it could have been anybody's blood, really. I don't think that's enough to really derail the film for me. That I honestly didn't even think about that at all until you brought it up.
I was just
it's a strange detail.
Looking at it from every angle, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying real hard because is it a
nitpick?
Listen.
It might be a little bit of a nitpick.
I'm pulling. I'm talking about it in the grand scheme of things. All that shit that I brought up, it's I'm trying to figure out why I don't like the taste that it left in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically why I'm trying to do it.
Do you fully know why?
I still cling to the fact that I don't think it knows, and even Jake said, even if they released something that put it out, the writers did some sort of thing and explained everything, I don't feel like that would be enough, because they shouldn't have to tell you. You should be able to extract it from the film in itself. But I just don't really feel like.
But they haven't really come out and given you a full blown example.
They won't, and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, they should, unless.
I don't think they should. I think that the movie relishes in its ambiguity, in its moral ambiguity, and it asks us to come to our own conclusions about what we see and what his actions mean. And I think that if you're spoon-fed, this is what I was trying to say, this is what it means, this is what this movie is trying to say, here's the theme.
What I'm trying
on a silver platter,
I've already come to my conclusion with the film.
Mm-hmm.
I've already come to terms that I don't like the film. I don't like what it's even trying to. I don't even like that it's ambiguous with its morals. I don't like that, especially because it involves gun violence and stuff like that. That's just me personally.
Yeah.
Now, I just wanted to know, because I want to know what they were thinking, what was in their mind when they made a scene or whatever. Just for shits and gigs, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want them. But see, that then you feed it to the public. I'm just curious, I guess, is what
You're more curious, because I honestly don't want to know their intentions. I never want to know. I think this movie is so much stronger when the movie doesn't spoon feed anything to you.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. If they ever did, and you watched it, would that change your opinion on the film?
No.
It shouldn't. Good.
No, it wouldn't.
That's
no.
fine.
As a matter of fact, the director came out and said that Zazie Beetz didn't die. He didn't kill her. What the fuck?
Zazie Beetz.
Yeah, his black
okay.
girlfriend. Yeah.
Okay.
She's also really prime, just want to point out.
Yeah, I was actually kind of curious about that,
yeah,
too.
he came
Somebody
out.
asked me that, and I'm like, I fucking don't know.
Yeah, they came out and asked him, they're like, do you... Because I do like the fact that it's also left ambiguous. It's like, did he fucking do it? Because they had the police sirens in the background, but you're like, did he do it? Did he not do it? What the fuck? Like, you're just left, like, with this, like, disturbing kind of thing. But then Todd Phillips did come... he shouldn't have done this, in my personal opinion, but he did come out and he's like, no, he didn't kill her. Because...
I think he's just trying to correct that... Maybe, and maybe
well, he
I'm
said
being
he didn't kill her
generous.
because she didn't necessarily do anything to him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's
like-
just, I think he's just trying to correct his own behavior,
So
which is kind of weird.
I like it. I love it. Me and you are seeing a lot of the same things, mostly, not all.
This is me and Mark when we saw Tully. Mark saw everything about the film that I saw, but he saw it as a positive. I saw it as a
Well, this
negative.
is like us with A Star Is Born. Same thing. We saw the same.
Well, Stars Born is mainly just preference because I like. It's basically there's a degree of it where it becomes like, do you like this kind of like relationship? No, I think that relationship is a little bit toxic. I just don't really vibe with it altogether. Like, it's not my kind of thing. It's like if you ask like what kind of girls do you like? I like fucking hipster girls and goth girls. It's just not my. The other girls are just not my. They're not my cup of tea, man.
Okay. Yeah, no, but I was saying, like, because I remember in A Star Is Born, we viewed, like, something that... I can't necessarily remember. It's been so long.
Oh, was it the nose thing?
No, it wasn't the nose thing. Great scene, though. But, like, we saw, like, thematically, like, what... The symbolism behind... like something Bradley Cooper did or something like that, and we came to the same conclusion. Yeah, that means this,
Didn't
you're
we
like,
interpret it like differently?
yeah, but we interpreted it
As like
as a positive versus a negative. Like
Yeah.
we interpreted it as the same thing, and you're like, but that sucks though. That's an asshole thing to do.
It
And
is
I'm
an
like,
asshole
no.
thing to do.
I'm like,
I thought
nah, dude, no.
he gave up. He gave up.
He did not give up. He did not give up. I don't even fucking remember what we're talking about right now.
About the giving up drinking thing. He gave up. He couldn't give up that, so he just gave up his relationship.
I don't even fucking remember. Point is, Joker, masterpiece.
Not a masterpiece.
Absolute masterpiece. 5 out of 5 stars. Arguably the best film of the year.
Maybe.
But Endgame is a full. That movie's more than a masterpiece.
You're
That
spoiling
movie's
your
historic,
list, my
so.
guy.
I know. I'm sorry. I mean, come on.
I know your number.
Did you honestly think Endgame was not going to be my number one? That movie's more than a masterpiece. That movie's historic. So
Transcends a masterpiece.
it does.
I
fucking love it, dude. I love Joker, and
at the
this,
very least, it
5 out of
can be
5.
thought provoking. Although I did read one. There's only one article that I read in the entire film. Only one. And it boiled down to, Joker has nothing interesting to say, so why even bother talking about it?
That's bullshit. That's not true at all. That's just blatantly not true. I will say, I think critics are judging this film unfairly. Critics were trying to bury this film just because of the unfair controversy and the fear-mongering surrounding it. I did see an article from a lot of news outlets that were saying that the movie... I swear this is true. You might have seen it. The movie condones pedophilia.
I've never seen it. I
Because-
only saw the one.
Because of the song they use when he's going down the stairs. You know that song? Dun, 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 hey!
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
That used to be at, like, basketball games and shit.
Yeah, that song, I think it's literally just called, like, Rock and Roll Blues or something like that. That song, the singer-songwriter of that song, he is a pedophile.
Oh, what the fuck, dude? That's reaching.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so you can't put a Michael Jackson song in any movie then?
No, you can't.
Is the movie condoning pedophilia? Like, that was the moment where I'm like, this one article was like, if you watch Joker, you're condoning pedophilia, or you're giving money to a pedophile.
Okay.
Because he gets a cut of that money, even though he's in jail or some shit. Or his estate, someone gets a cut of that money because they use it in the movie. And I'm like, you fuckers are just trying to, find anything you can to just bury this movie, just because of some, political personal agenda.
Honestly, I feel like
And
I
it's
put a
ridiculous.
lot of thought into it. I didn't put that much thought into it.
I know. Are you serious? Like, I'm like, all right, well, you can't. No more Michael Jackson songs in movies, T-Kettle. No more rap. You can't have any rap song from like any rapper. Nope. Fuck, it's, oh gosh, so dumb. All right. In conclusion, I love Joker. It's a masterpiece. 5 stars.
Okay. 4.
4?
4.
4? You're fucking.
It was
crazy.
5 at first because I was like really in the middle of it, but like after the second viewing, I was like, I didn't even have a good time with it the second time.
This fucking guy. I cannot believe it.
Fucking guy, I can't
This
believe
fucking
that
guy, dude.
he loves it
I
that much.
I cannot believe this guy.
It's so generic.
It's not generic. It's great.
But
It's Stars Born all over again.
so I guess we can. What one do we want to tackle next? We got
Dr.
2 more
Sleep,
to go.
I guess. Just kind
Dr.
of.
Sleep. Because honestly, I don't really have that much to say about it.
I wish we were supposed to get our friend Brendan in on here because our friend Brendan is probably the biggest Shining fan ever. It's his favorite movie of all time. I don't even know how many times you've seen it. Probably over 100. So he had a lot to say about it, and I really kind of wanted him to be on here, but he worked today, and then he was also busy Sunday. So I really just kind of want him to add because he could. If he was here, we could sustain a full blown convo.
Which is fine because we put a lot of time into that last one, so it probably probably. Yeah.
But he's not here, so I guess just a quick thoughts about it. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
I don't fucking know. Honestly, I can't even remember. I don't remember if I dislike it or if I'm just like whatever on it. But the point is like, whatever.
It's interesting because Mike Flanagan had a very hard task in front of him.
Totally.
How do you even do that? You have to make a sequel
remake
to
fucking Shining. Like just remake a fucking Stephen King Shining, so you didn't have to mooch off of the visuals of the fucking movie.
I don't think he's mooching though. I think he's just paying tribute.
He's
and honoring.
recreating them with the same visual aesthetic.
Yeah.
And he's using the same music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do that if you're?
Because
It's mooching because like this is the only thing that's gonna get people to go to it.
Yeah. It is the Shining parts, which I thought the Shining parts were really good, though. Like, they were really well created. And I thought the actors... Now, I want to get your opinion. Well,
Okay.
I guess we can't really spoil it, but... I thought the actor recreations were really good, except the one at the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of agree with it.
Mm-hmm. I remember Brendan that was a huge flaw for him.
Really?
Because I remember when we were watching it, and then Wendy came... And, like, she was like, oh, whatever. And she was, like, Shelley Duvall. He was like, whoa, like, that's really good. And the kid and Dick O'Halloran was really good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, damn. Like he was like, oh, damn. But then as soon as that one guy appeared, after the movie was over, he was like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was not a good choice. That was a terrible casting choice. I don't think it fully pulls off the balance between the King and the Kubrick. Because I remember telling you before you even saw it, you can clearly tell what Stephen King... I mean, not just because of, like, it's new, but, like, the whole Steam thing, come on, that's Stephen King.
They're just 2 different worlds.
They really are 2 different worlds. But it's like, you're kind of put in a position where it's like you want to make a sequel to The Shining, but you also have to adapt Dr. Sleep, you know? Mm. And it's interesting, because... It's like The Shining is Stephen King's story.
Yeah.
So it's just.
So they should give respect to it.
So they should give respect to it, and I heard that Dr. Sleep as a novel isn't that great. I hear it's just like okay.
Yeah.
So, I think honestly the selling point of this movie is the Shining parts, and some of the scene recreations I thought were really good, and the homages, and it was really cool seeing like Brendan's face light up like. Mm. During certain things. Overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. But there was one thing I will say that I thought was really cool. It's a spoiler, but it was something I really didn't like at first. But then I'm like, oh wait, I get it now, and I think that's a good thing they did it. Uh-huh. But I can't get into that because it's a spoiler.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I want to ask you, and me and Brendan were talking about it. The ending showdown.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting like a fucking like X-Men, like people flying across the room and shit, like this.
Yeah.
But I expected more still, right? Like just a little bit. Like Was it a little anticlimactic to you? Like I thought it was a little anticlimactic.
Honestly, it was in its length, I guess, but what happened? I thought what happened was kind of cool.
I think it was. Oh, you mean like when they all?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
See, for me, I guess I really didn't have any expectations for this movie, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I really didn't like the movie because I can't really think of what I really liked about it besides like some character moments.
Well, it sounds like you think it's mediocre then. Like you don't like it, but you don't hate it.
But like, I feel like I know a lot of the stuff that I dislike, or whatever. I feel like the film just needed to be completely different. It needed a rework, like desperately. Like I think they should have put more emphasis on the girl. There's like no background story for her, like whatsoever. They needed more character moments. She just feels like an extension of Danny, so I don't really care for her. Also. The acting is just all over the place. There's like a big moment for both of them where it's like something big happens and it's like this is a life-changing moment for both of them, and they're just like, yeah, that sucks.
I don't really know what you're talking about.
It's like before the climax of the movie, before they go to a place.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And they're in the car. They're in the car and they're talking, and it's like it's just so fucking dead. They're just so emotionless. And it's like, oh my god.
See, I kind of disagree. I thought the acting for the most part was really good, especially from Rebecca Ferguson. I thought the little girl was
pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the girl was pretty good.
There's moments of good acting. I just feel it's a bit stilted.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I liked it for the most part. I think if you watch The Shining, I think if you're bored on Halloween, you can watch this as like a good follow up. I don't think you would hate yourself watching it. It's definitely not something. It's like, I can't watch this. It's so god awful. I think I don't know. I think the acting's good. I like the atmosphere. I like how there's literally no jump scare.
That's funny because you just said it now. I didn't like the atmosphere.
Really?
I totally forgot. It's so bland. There's nothing like creepy about it at all.
Really? You don't think
so? It felt so like the film felt so story driven to the point where like it didn't really dwell on any atmospheric moments.
I thought when they returned to the Overlook, it was pretty atmospheric.
I feel like it was just cruising
by.
Well,
especially when he's like walking through the house and all the lights are turned on and it's like the house is awakened. Like I thought that's not really a spoiler, but I thought that was really atmospheric and creepy and cool.
And then since you bring it up about the Overlook, when they came back or whatever, like I didn't feel anything because I felt like it was like two people with superpowers like seeing like a haunted house, like a shitty haunted house. No, that's what I felt like, especially when Rebecca Ferguson's walking through it, and she's like, "Ooh," like it was like, this is like somebody who basically has superpowers who's like,
she's not fazed by it. She's not scared by it.
Yeah, and so I kind of wasn't either.
Yeah, I guess
it's not actually threatening when you have these characters that like
they're not scared of it. Yeah.
An ability to like disarm it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess
I don't know if they disarm it because.
I mean,
you know who wins in the end.
Ewan McGregor's, like his ability that he has in his head kind of makes everything not scary.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when I felt the tension when they returned. I'll be real, I did, and I was like, I think this is really cool. Like that was one of the best parts of the entire movie. I thought was that, and I was like, this is sick. Like it all led up to that moment, and I'm like, yeah. But I do think it's a little too long. Because it's Stephen King, so it's always too long. And you can just tell, and this is with every single Stephen King adaptation, stuff just sort of happens, and you're like, I could tell that this was much more fleshed out in the book, but they just threw this scene in here, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, there's a scene in the woods where I was like, I don't know about this scene. Like, that's weird. You know, like...
Yeah.
And it was very action-y, I guess you could say. But Brendan said that he thinks that should have been, like, the climax. Like, that should have been... Like, something like that should have been the climax.
Probably,
more so.
But then, of course, they gotta
go back. Yeah, they have to.
Jack, we gotta go back!
Overall, I thought this film was good. I do like it a lot more on reflection. I do remember that. Because I remember I gave it a 3 stars, 3 out of 5 when I first saw it, but after thinking about it, it's definitely a 3.5 or maybe even a soft 4, but 3.5 for sure.
I really don't. I feel like I could get more on board with it if it didn't have any attachment to The Shining.
Which is weird because the movie's almost asking you to distance yourself and don't view it as a Kubrick sequel.
That's why I don't like that.
It's weird because it's like, well, if you view it as a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's Shining, then of course you're not going to like it. Well, it's like, but that's what the movie wants. That's what the movie wants you to do, though.
People would recognize that it's the same characters, but it's a completely different visual style. If you just threw, like, you didn't use the same patterns of the carpeting or whatever. Like, people would pick up on that shit. If you were in a completely different hotel, it didn't have to be the same hotel, and you say room 237, you would know that's Danny or whatever. This little kid's Danny. It doesn't need to be a recreation of it. They could have made their own decision.
But I feel like the movie has no selling point at that point. That's
that's
the
why
problem. That's why the movie is so hard.
It's
like
trapped.
I never would have taken on this. This is such a hard thing to do. That's almost impossible.
It's hard to make.
It is. It's like, how are you gonna honor these two very different things?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's, for me, dude, I honestly gotta give it a 4. I don't like the film.
Damn, son.
It's really... this year sucks for me.
This
fucking
guy.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say it's like a 5, so that means I like it more than Joker? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm trying to think. I think you should say Joker's a 9, and this movie is whatever you want to give it. I don't really care.
Yeah. No, dude. I don't like this film just because, like, I don't think that I don't even think it should have been made.
I think it should have been made because it's. I mean, why not adapt Stephen King's book? You know, he wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people view, like, The Shining is so synonymous with Kubrick that a lot of people seem to forget. Actually, The Shining is not Kubrick's story. It's not his to own.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But that film is very much his own. He's
it is.
auteur to it.
It is, but at the same time, it's like he doesn't own.
And I know we always say don't do this, stop doing this. They honestly should have just made it. If they were gonna do this, they should have just made a remake of The Shining.
Right,
like
do Stephen King's The Shining, and then do
Stephen
Doctor
King's
Sleep.
Yeah, that's the only route
as
that
a
I could have
sequel
seen
to that.
This working. I think
Yeah.
they jumped the gun here,
Yeah,
and that's why I don't think I like it.
I can see why they did what they did. Like, I can definitely see why, not just from a business perspective, but also from a story perspective. But I don't think they stuck the landing fully.
Yeah.
No, I think they did in some parts. I think the beginning of the film is actually really good. And then, honestly, like, once they go away from the Shining stuff, I was kind of like, you know, whatever.
The pacing was kind of, like, there was a lot of good information at the beginning.
And there's a really good moment at the end.
Yeah, but then they just kind of get repetitive with it. Like, in the middle, they kept showing the same thing from the villains. They kept showing the same thing over and over again. And I felt like this would have been a perfect opportunity to cut that and to do some little background on the girl, maybe. Because... there's good character moments. If we would have understood her trauma, what she had to grow up with, I felt like we would have...
I don't necessarily think she had any trauma,
though. Well, I mean, having this ability brings trauma. Like, seeing stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if you would have played her up a little bit more, maybe I would have been a little bit more attached to her.
Yeah.
But I felt nothing.
I thought the movie was good, not great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 3.5 out of 5 for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year has not been great, I'll admit, but a lot of good things have been coming out like at the tail end of the year that I can't even fucking keep up.
Yeah. So
I don't even know if I have a friggin' top 10 this year, dude. I might have just like a top 5.
Dude, top 25 is gonna be a disaster.
Like, this, to me, is, like, the worst year for movies. And that's just because, like, I haven't seen a lot of them, I'll admit. I've never missed this much movies, ever. Mm-hmm. Remember, like, every year I tell you there's always that one film I miss where I'm like, this I have, like, 10 of them. I have, like, 10 of them. I guarantee you, dude, I probably won't even see Parasite. Just because I just don't have time.
That's a fucking damn shame.
Yeah, because I might see Ford v Ferrari before it because that's playing in a theater near me.
Yeah.
Knives Out.
Well, you actually... I saw Knives Out.
Did you? Is that out?
I saw an early screening with Mark.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you just give me what?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? Okay.
Pretty good.
Nice. Interesting.
But AMC's showing Parasites.
I know, but it's
a little far.
It's a little far, and I'm like, I have to make time out of my day, and it's like I got so much shit going on.
Yeah. So I feel like we definitely hit the hour mark, but do you want to go ahead and explain that last bit?
Well, let's see. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we are at 59 minutes now. So we're just going to touch on this last story briefly. I think we might continue it into another episode because I think this is kind of a huge deal. The Department of Justice has removed... Hold on, you stupid computer. Hold on one second. Gosh. I had an article up, but your internet froze on me.
Yeah, sorry.
I forgive you. I forgive you. Oh my gosh,
That's what I get
come
for
on.
paying for good internet, too. I have, like, the second highest tier.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Department of Justice has removed standards that have been in the movie theater industry or the movie industry for, like, since the beginning almost.
Since, like, the 40s.
Yes, in the 40s, studios tried to monopolize the industry by creating their own theaters instead of licensing out their movies to theater chains. Now, they have lifted that after, like, 100 years. So now... studios, big studios like Disney and Universal and all that and Paramount can create their own theaters and they don't have to license out their movies to local chains anymore. So that could potentially spell death for the small time movie chain.
Yeah. But
So
doesn't that mean that like some of these smaller like some of the bigger movie chains right now that like won't be able to attain like Disney films per se, don't you think that they'd start playing like smaller films?
they could, but
just to thrive.
But we've had this discussion last time. Is that enough for these films these theaters to survive?
You know what's funny is because we always used to talk about how we would say something and then it would come back and like we almost like predicted the future.
Yeah,
because
right.
we talked about that.
I
And
know.
we're like hypothetically, do you think that they would survive? Now we might actually get to know.
I know. So let me just go through this article a little bit. Department of Justice to remove landmark theater restrictions. The Department of Justice has concluded that the 71-year-old regulations have run their course. In a recent ruling, the Department of Justice stated that the decrees have served their purpose and their continued existence may actually harm American consumers by standing in the way of innovative business models of the exhibition of America's great creative films. So, here's something that here's just like a list. This is why I like this Premium Beat article. I'll link it below because it kind of layman's everything for you. Puts everything in layman's terms. So what does the removal of the decrees mean? Without the decrees, studios can own their own theaters again, while smaller theaters could struggle to meet licensing demands from big studios. We might soon be able to take family pictures with a live version of Frozen's Elsa at a selfie station located just inside the lobby of a Disney complex. That's just an example. Or Amazon could let Prime members into early screenings of their original content at their wholly owned theaters, free of admission, not only as a membership perk, but also a rake in cash on lucrative concessions, which already drive the brick-and-mortar movie economy. Moviegoers could also be confronted with Amazon products and merch in the theater or face a litany of ads from Amazon sellers. Additionally, Netflix could sidestep their well-documented disputes with the National Association of Theater Owners by dictating their own screenings in Netflix-owned cinemas. We could also see small theaters lose the ability to put together incredible creative programming because they've been block booked into filling all their showtimes with films made by the same studio. These things might not happen, but what's important is that major corporations will soon have these options. Current theater companies will have a 2-year sunset period to allow the chains to adjust to the new business model. So we don't really know what it's going to mean, but I kind of think this is scary because this is bringing the studios back. Like back in the 40s, they said studios cannot create their own theaters because you're going to monopolize the industry that way.
Yeah.
And now that's basically what's going to happen. If you don't think Disney's going to put up their own movie theaters, you're crazy. Like, of course they're going to do that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have it to where only the Disney theaters can show anything Marvel, Star Wars, or Disney. Or Fox. So it's like, this shit's crazy.
Yeah, I basically think if that happens, all of the theaters that we know right now are gone.
Pretty much.
Give it 2 years. Give it 3 years.
The reason it says right here that these decrees were put into place in the first place is because It was meant to stop a monopolistic movie distribution tactic known as block booking. Essentially, this forced theaters who wanted to screen a studio's tentpole film to also license the studio's other films, which the studio worried might struggle. This tactic doesn't tend to affect larger theater chains that can stash the dud films on their smaller screens, but it could have a major ramifications for smaller independent theaters with limited screen options, forcing them to bend their programming to the will of the studio.
Basically, Disney's gonna rule the world. Why put money into any other stock? You can just put money into the Disney stock.
I know, right? Well, it's not just Disney. Everyone can do
Amazon.
this now. Amazon,
Yeah,
Netflix.
they can put a theater in an Amazon warehouse, and you can pick up your package while you go to the movies.
Dude, Netflix is gonna have their own movie theater. I guarantee it.
But no one's gonna go to that one.
No. Universal. Paramount was the one who tried to do it in the first place. It was like Department of Justice versus Paramount. So now, that's just crazy to me, man. I'm a little nervous. This is why I kind of wish maybe we shouldn't have talked about this last, because there's a lot to say about it. But we have that hour fucking time limit.
Yeah. Well, I never got to dig deep into it because I was at work. So maybe this is a good thing. Maybe I can do some research and actually feel like
maybe it'll be a part 2 of it.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting.
It is interesting, and it's kind of scary. I don't know what is going to happen, but the movie industry as a whole going forward has been kind of scaring me a little bit. So
yeah.
As someone who's trying to get into it, it's like, what is the movie industry even going to look like when I'm like in my 50s? When I'm Scorsese's age?
I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be theaters.
I don't know.
No, I guess.
There might be theaters.
The only theaters that are going to exist are also going to be theme parks. I know that's a little bit of a joke, a little bit of a sore joke.
Yeah, I see how it is.
Yeah.
No, I think like, well, you want to see a Universal film? Well, you got to go to the Universal theater.
Yeah, so that makes me wonder if they're going to be localized. Like, is there going to be enough of them so I can go down the street?
Or is there only going to be like
to Detroit or
right? Or is there only going to be like one per major city?
Which that sounds awful too.
That does. It's interesting, and now studios can force small, and I could be wrong, but they can force smaller theater chains to only to block book and only show their movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, so you can go to Imagine and only see Paramount films. They're only showing Paramount films.
Which also sucks too.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was kind of hoping that if this was going to happen, like smaller theaters like Imagine, who only exist in like 3 states, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
3, mm-hmm. They could play like Parasite, The Lighthouse, Black Man in San Francisco, stuff like that.
The thing is like movie theaters make their money off of admission and just concessions and like, gosh, if they're only showing independent cinemas, it's like they're not even going to be able to thrive. I don't think, man. Especially if they're not showing tentpole films anymore.
Basically, the way I see it is like something like Main Art Theater is going to just crumble.
Yeah,
and those semi-bigger theaters are going to become the new
main art theaters. Yeah, that could definitely, that's a good prediction. This is a very scary thing, and I'm surprised not a lot of people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. Like in just the world of the internet, like no one's talking about this. Like this is huge.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't understand why people aren't talking about it, and people should be talking about it.
Because people don't care about going to movie theaters.
Not anymore, dude.
They care about sitting at home.
I was talking about this with my mom the other day. Like, man, like remember, like obviously we don't remember, but I was talking with my mom, and she's like, back in the day, like going to the movies was like an event. Like people would dress up to go to the movies. Yeah. It was legit. Like it was an event.
That was a real long time ago.
Real long time ago. Like 40s, 50s. And it's like now people they fucking go to the movies just when they're bored. Yeah. They go to the movies just to talk, which makes no fucking sense to me. Being on your phone during a movie is like being on your iPod. It's like listening to your iPod at a concert. Is what I always say. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. I don't know, man. I just really want to keep movie theaters alive. Because to me, I know this is debatable and a lot of people don't believe this way. But for me as a filmmaker, I define success if I get my movie in a theater. Yeah. Like, I want my movie to be shown in a movie theater. Like, If I made a movie and it was shown on Netflix, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be super happy. But there would be a part of me that's like, man, I wish this was showing at a movie theater.
Unless your film gets picked up by Disney or Amazon or Netflix.
Yeah.
You're not going to be in a theater, my guy.
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's also scary. I didn't even think about it like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man.
Well, to be continued, I guess.
To be continued.